Hello, welcome back to my channel. Please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and please check out my channel for other Z-World updates. So the last update about Twist of Fate. Sushma angrily breaks and ends her relationship with Prachi because of Prachi's stubbornness to go and stop Ranbir and Rhea's wedding. And Rhea was happy and she boastfully says to Shaina that she was able to change her destiny because of her conspiracy. Let's continue. Prachi gets down from the car as she reaches the Kohli's house. A song plays in the background. She cries as she walks, recalling their moment. Just then, the flower garland on the door falls. Ranbir owes it and then looks at Prachi. A song plays in the background. He recalls his marriage with Prachi. She thinks, where is Ranbir? Ranbir shouted at a servant and tells him that he doesn't want the wedding dress options. The servant comes and asks, who are you? Prachi says she is Prachi, Ranbir's wife. She says Ranbir cannot do this marriage and asks, where is Ranbir? The servant tells her that Ranbir is getting married to Rhea in the banquet hall at 9 p.m. Prachi is shocked and she runs out from there. The taxi driver says she did not give me the money. Prachi asks him to take her to the banquet hall. Pallavi asks the priest to read the mantras loudly so that nobody's bad side can break the marriage. The priest recalls Rhea's words and asks Pallavi to call Ranbir as the Mahura time has came. Pallavi asks Shiv to bring Ranbir. She asks Grandma, what happened to you? If you are not happy with your grandson's marriage. Grandma says, how can I be happy after knowing the truth? Vikram comes there and asks what happened. Grandma says a girl is fooling all of us and says it is clear that Rhea is blackmailing us and acted to commit suicide. Pallavi says today is the marriage day. Don't say anything wrong. She says I don't want to hurt Rhea or you. Let's celebrate this happiness. Grandma says you both have stones in your head and says this happiness will take a big price from us. Pallavi says nothing of that sort would happen. Rhea is a good girl and I always wanted her to be my daughter-in-law. She says we will not talk anything further and goes. Vikram asks Grandma to sit and says I agree that Rhea emotionally blackmailed us, but did you think why she did this? Vikram says we are responsible for this. We made her sit in the wedding altar and then conveniently told her that the marriage cannot happen as Ranbir married Prachi. Vikram says he has always sees her as a daughter and now his dream to make her his daughter-in-law is coming true. Grandma says whatever happened between Prachi and Siddharth was someone's conspiracy and says someone had trapped them. Vikram asks Grandma to go to the temple but doesn't hear the ladies talk. He says this doesn't happen in real life. Grandma says you cannot make the life quiet when it comes to you. Vikram says we will see the happiness and says let's enjoy it. He says if anything goes wrong, then I will rectify it. Nothing would happen. Grandma recalls Rhea's threatening words. Rhea recalls Ranbir making Prachi wear the ring, leaving her on the wedding altar for Prachi and expressing his hatred for her. Rhea keeps her hand on his ears, recalling his words. She says, I have won Prachi. I have won and says I have lost many years of my life. Now I got everything and you have lost Prachi. She says I have won my Ranbir and says once this marriage happens, then I will throw you out from his memories too. Shaina comes there and says Pallavi auntie is calling you for the marriage Mahurat. Prachi asks the driver not to stop the car. The driver says I might go to jail for not stopping the car. He says if it is urgent, then call someone. Prachi says she doesn't have the phone. She asks about the time. The driver says it is 9 p.m. The driver stops the car and gets down to see it. Ranbir gets ready in the wedding dress and calls Prachi. He then tells himself not to call her. Shiv comes there and asks, are you fine? He says you are called downstairs for your marriage. Ranbir says I will come. Shiv says I was asked to take you down. Prachi asks the driver if the car is fine. The driver says I am checking. He calls someone and asks him to come as someone's life is in danger. Prachi tries to stop the car. She cries. Ranbir comes downstairs for the marriage. He recalls Grandma's words. The priest asks them to make the groom wear the turban. Ranbir wears the turban. The priest applies the tilak on his forehead. Ranbir imagines Prachi seated beside him and gets emotional. Prachi says, don't leave me ever. The priest asks Ranbir to put something in the holy fire. Vikram and Grandma calls Ranbir's name. Ranbir calls Prachi's name. Chief thinks that why would anyone call his servant's name on his marriage day? Vikram asks, what are you saying? Ranbir says, Prachi told me never to leave her. Vikram says to Ranbir, come with me. Ranbir says, I know what you are going to tell me. He says I cannot break the promise given to Prachi and says he would talk to Rhea and says she would understand. Ranbir goes to talk to Rhea. Prachi says no car is coming. Shahana is in the car and she asks the driver to stop the car. The driver says he can stop the car on the side. Someone splashes muddy water on Prachi. The driver arranges another cab for her and asks her to change the clothes somewhere and go in the car. Shahana gets down and looks for Prachi. She finds her gone. Pallavi tells Rhea, "You are looking beautiful." Rhea says, "You are my mommy and Shahana is my sister." She says, "I feel so blessed," and says, "My own mother and sister were sadness and darkness in my life." She says, "You both filled my life with happiness," and she thanks Pallavi and Shahana for bringing the truth out. Ranbir is about to come inside the room, but someone pulls him out. Rhea looks on. Rhea thanks Pallavi for saving her life and asks her. Ranbir is about to enter there, but someone pulls him out. Rhea says someone had come. Pallavi says nobody. Let's go to the wedding altar. Vikram is seen stopping Ranbir and says this marriage is important for Rhea. Ranbir says, "I cannot marry Rhea." Vikram says, "We have made you understand not to marry Prachi, but you did not listen and you went ahead to marry her." He says it is enough. You have to marry Rhea, else we will die with Rhea. He asks him to marry Rhea and asks, "Why do you want to ruin everything for that woman?" Pallavi brings Rhea to the wedding altar. Rhea sits and asks for Ranbir. The priest says he went with Vikram. Grandma asks Pallavi if she doesn't understand that Ranbir doesn't want to do this marriage. Vikram brings Ranbir there and makes him sit on the wedding altar. He then makes him wear the turban. Pallavi asks the priest to start the marriage rituals and tells Grandma that Ranbir will marry as nobody forced him to marry. She folds her hands and asks Grandma not to fit such things in his head. Rhea smiles. The priest asks them to get up for the wedding rounds and make each other wear the garland. Rhea makes him wear the garland. Ranbir imagines Prachi on Rhea's place and smiles. He then makes her wear the garland. Everyone smiles. He then sees Rhea and his smile vanishes. Rhea realizes that Ranbir is thinking about Prachi still, and she thinks that once they get married, then she will take out Prachi from his mind. The priest asks them to sit. The priest asks Pallavi to tie their gad badan. Pallavi ties the knot. Ranbir recalls Prachi and his marriage. Suddenly, a heavy wind comes. The priest asks them to get the window closed and says if the holy fire gets off, then it will be inauspicious. Pallavi asks someone to close the windows. The priest asks Rhea and Ranbir to stand up for the wedding rounds. Ranbir is still sitting down. Rhea asks him to stand up for the rounds. Ranbir imagines Prachi and begins to take the rounds with her. Rhea thinks that everything is happening nicely. "I am so happy." Rhea says to herself that my happiness will remain the same, but Pallavi told Siddharth about this marriage. She says, "I know the truth," and says Prachi still loves Ranbir and she has no affair with Siddharth. Whatever happened in the hotel was plotted by me and my aunt. She thinks if Siddharth and Prachi will come there, then they will do drama. Pallavi thinks that the 4 rounds is over and thinks that no hurdles shall come between their marriage. Ranbir looks at Rhea as he stops. After the priest asks Rhea to walk ahead from the 5th round, Rhea walks ahead. Suddenly, the gad badan cloth opens up. Vikram and Pallavi get shocked. Grandma smiles. Just then, Prachi comes there and says, "Stop this marriage." Grandma smiles saying Prachi. Ranbir is shocked seeing Prachi there. Rhea thinks that why did Ranbir not complete the rituals fast? Prachi reminds Ranbir of his promise and says, "Don't do this marriage." Rhea says your drama has started again and says, "Why don't you go far away from us?" She asks Prachi to just leave. Prachi tells Rhea that you will not say anything. You have made stories and played with people's lives. She says, "Today I came to expose you and end all your games. Don't think about playing any more conspiracy." She says, "I will tell your truth to everyone today." Prachi says, "What do you think? That you will fool me like you have fooled Siddharth? That Ranbir doesn't love me and wanted to get rid of me so that he can marry you?" She says, "I would agree," and says, "Will he marry you?" Ranbir asks, "What do you want to say?" Prachi says, "I want to say what Rhea is hiding," and blames Rhea for their separation. Prachi says Rhea made that hotel plan and pushed us there. Prachi says Rhea had told Siddharth that mommy made this plan and wanted to separate us. Rhea says Prachi is lying. She cannot bear my happiness and that is why she came here to break it. Rhea says, "I will not let you be successful." Prachi says, "I am telling the truth." Siddharth comes there and says, "I can prove this truth." He walks inside and says Rhea's lies has spoiled my life too. Siddharth says when Rhea was telling me everything, I had recorded everything in my phone. He says our truth and lies is in my phone. Prachi asks what happened. Why did your face color went away? And says this is your real face. She says your plans are running everyone away from you, the dreams which you have seen to marry Ranbir. Prachi says it was your plan. Whatever happened in the hotel room, she says you stooped too low to separate Ranbir and me and blamed your own sister and ruined my character. Prachi says Ranbir also agreed and asked where did this trust go. She says how can you think that your Prachi can do this, and says I am not like this and I love you so much and only you is in my heart. Prachi tells Ranbir that you taught me love and I married you seeing your obsession. She says you came into people's talks and left me. She asks why didn't you trust me and says Rhea separated us as she wanted to marry you. Prachi says I am the same one who loves you and I will love you always. Siddharth says he needs a big screen to expose Rhea. Prachi says no Siddharth, this is the truth to expose Rhea, but Ranbir and my love will decide, trust on me. She says I have proof to prove my love and asks Ranbir to say if he needs any proofs and asks if he doesn't remember what her sister has done with her. Prachi says someone else is with me this time and she asks Ranbir to hear his heart and asks if his heart loves her even till now. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, like my videos and please share my videos. Thank you.